It's Friday, March 8th, and we're recapping the 8th week of the Texas Legislature's 83rd regular session. I'm Daniel Williams, field organizer and legislative specialist with Equality Texas. The Texas Legislature meets for 140 days on odd-numbered years. So we are 60 days down and 80 days to go. Now, day 60 is kind of a special day on the legislative calendar. It's the last day to file House bills. So right now, across the Capitol, staffers are cowering in their office as roving bands of lobbyists travel from one end of the building to another, desperate to get their bills filed. An arms race develops. Lobbyists plying offices with food and shiny trinkets, while the offices fortify their defenses by placing increasingly threatening signs on the doors. We aren't accepting bills. No more bills. Don't ask. Ain't nobody got time for that. Think I'm exaggerating? Yeah. Thanks to the In Session Tumblr for that pick. Now, not to worry, Equality Texas has been working the Capitol for months to make sure that legislation vital to the LGBT community is filed. This week, we've seen the introduction of 3 more bills on our legislative agenda. House Bill 2402 by Representative Mary Gonzalez of Clint would address the issue of discrimination based on sexual orientation and gender identity or expression in public schools. Now, currently, there is no law in Texas prohibiting this kind of discrimination. Although the largest school districts have non-discrimination policies, for students, parents, and teachers in other districts, there is no protection. Over 33% of LGBT students report experiencing harassment because of their sexual orientation or their gender identity. Over half of students report hearing homophobic slurs used in school. Lesbian teens are twice as likely to commit suicide as their heterosexual peers. Transgender teens are 4 times more likely, and gay teens are 6 times more likely to commit suicide than their heterosexual peers. No child should fear going to school because of this kind of harassment. It's high time we gave school districts the tools to address the issue. Gonzalez also filed HB 2403, which would address inequities in the state's Romeo and Juliet law. Now, we have a law in Texas. It's a very good law. When I tell you about it, I think you'll agree with me that it's a good law that says you can't have sex with children. Everybody agree? Good law? Now, There's an exception to this law. It's a very good exception, and when I tell you about it, I think you'll agree with me that it's a good exception. That says if the 2 parties involved are both over the age of 14, are within 3 years of each other's age, and the contact was consensual, then effectively the adult party can't be charged. Everyone agree that's a good exception. We shouldn't be putting high school sweethearts in jail. Now, the problem is that there's a 4th criteria I didn't tell you about. The 2 parties have to be both over the age of 14, within 3 years of each other's age, the contact must be consensual, and the 2 parties must be of the opposite sex. That means that we have a situation right now in Texas where if you have 2 high school students, one an 18-year-old senior and one a 16-year-old junior, and they become physically involved, if the 18-year-old's male and the 16-year-old's female, then the law doesn't get involved. But if the 18-year-old is female and the 16-year-old is female, then the 18-year-old can be arrested, charged, convicted, sent to jail, and required to register as a sex offender for the rest of her life. Look, teenagers sometimes make decisions that we as adults know are not what's best for them. But that needs to be a conversation between parents and their children. Not between parents, their children, the arresting officer, the bailiff, the prosecuting attorney, and the trial judge. The state should not be intruding on parents' rights to instill their sexual values into their children. And HB 2403 would address this issue. Finally, HB 3230 by Representative Garnet Coleman of Houston would standardize the process for correcting gender markers in Texas. Texas law allows people assigned a gender at birth that does not reflect who they are to correct their legally recognized gender. However, the process for doing so is not clearly laid out in the statute. This has resulted in a patchwork of different legal processes and precedents across the state. A standard process for correcting gender markers needs to be established so that all Texans can be assured that they will be treated fairly by the courts. HB 3230 would do that. Texas is one of only 19 states with no statutory guidelines on correcting gender markers. According to the National Transgender Discrimination Survey, when presenting identification that did not reflect their gender, 41% of transgender respondents were harassed, 15% were asked to leave, and 3% were assaulted or even attacked. 27% of Texans with a history of gender transition do not have identification that correctly reflects their gender. And the current patchwork approach to fixing that doesn't address the issue. Everyone should be treated equally under the law. We need a standard process so that everyone will know what to expect. Now, Monday is Equality Texas Lobby Day. That's March 11th. If you aren't able to make it to Lobby Day here in Austin, please pick up the phone that day and call your state representative and senator. Let them know that you want them to support these and other Equality Texas endorsed bills. If you don't know who represents you, you can visit this website to find out. If you're in Austin on Monday but can't make it to the full Lobby Day, consider joining us for our press conference at 11:30 a.m. on the Capitol South Steps. Until next week, I'm Daniel Williams, field organizer and legislative specialist with Equality Texas.